Hey everybody, Akash Shinty here with a brief video on biopharma basics. Today we talk about what are the traits of a rockstar analyst. For those of you watching this video, I really encourage you to learn as much as you possibly can about the biopharmaceutical industry. I'm assuming whomever's watching is really interested in what an analyst's life is like in some senses. How to get to become an analyst, and really what are traits of individuals who tends to do well in this type of position. So with that, assuming that you know what the biopharmaceutical industry is and that you've looked through a couple of the other videos that I've put together, kind of explaining what a biotech analyst does, we'll get into some of the traits. So the traits that I'm talking for a biotech analyst here particularly refer to someone who would be in the banking industry, consulting industry, business development at a biotech or pharmaceutical company. These are the type of analyst positions that I'm referring to specifically. Now, with that said, the first trait, or the first thing that's very, very important for an analyst, is to understand what deadlines and expectations are. So oftentimes when you're working on projects, you're working on a project with a team. You'll have maybe 2 or 3 people typically on a team with you, depending on the size of the project. But it's really important to know what the deadlines are for a particular project or engagement. Now, the deadlines could be something as small as a deadline that's internal, that's for your team itself. It could be a deadline that's external, so that refers to you delivering something to a client. So it's very, very important to know what are your deadlines, and to make sure that the expectations as to this is what is expected by this deadline is communicated clearly amongst the team, such that whomever is the head of the team knows, and all of the associates, the analysts on the team are aware of these as well. Very, very important as an analyst, and particularly a rockstar analyst, to be communicating these deadlines to each other, and to make sure that that there's enough time to check through if there's any errors in terms of putting the deliverable together, and always, as a key, under promise and over deliver. To jump into this theme a little bit more, what do I mean by under promise, over deliver? Say that you can do, always give a little hesitance, not a little hesitancy, be realistic in what you can deliver, but always promise a little bit less than what you can deliver and give way more than what you would, what you could do. This is a very, very key and important trait in a rockstar analyst. Moving on to number 2 is checking for errors. Hugely, hugely important. One of the things that gets overlooked oftentimes, especially when you're working in larger teams, is that you have a lot of hands that are working on, if you want to think of it as a kitchen project, like a stew or a soup. You have many hands that are working in the kitchen, and inevitably some certain things may be placed in that should not have been placed in. So very, very important as an analyst to make sure that you're checking through, making note as to what is supposed to be in the final deliverable, what is not supposed to be there, and how do you go about making sure that you're keeping the proper things in the deliverable and excluding the things that are not there. That also includes just checking your work, making sure that at the end, after you go through you put together an exercise, you're like, did that actually make sense? Like, do these numbers actually, are they realistic? Is that something that's really realistic, or is it not? So very, very important to be checking your errors in deliverables that you do. Key point number 3, and we've got 5, so we'll go through these a little bit faster. Key point number 3 is to be summarizing any key points. So as you go through an analysis, as an analyst, typically you're going through Excel, you're doing all of the analysis, you're looking at all of the large data, extracting the takeaways, or extracting insights and analytics from the data, plopping it into a PowerPoint slide, and then making the graphics and such. A step up above this is putting together and really thinking through what are the key points of this analysis itself. In other words, what does this data say? 1, that's the base level. That's what an analyst typically does. But what does this really mean? That's the key piece right there is, okay, we have this data. Well, what does it mean for the clients? What is this analysis saying? Why does this matter? Why did we even do this for the client? You know, so important to be thinking through that. Okay, what does this actually mean? Based on what this actually means, of course. Okay, this is how it's applicable to the client itself. Hugely distinguishing factor in terms of someone who takes it up a level and takes it up a notch and is really growing up through the ranks itself. So make sure that you summarize your key points. And the other thing is you want to communicate what's important to your other team members or to your clients as to, oh, I saw this really interesting trend in the data itself. This is something you should probably pay attention to. It's a key thing that you should pay attention to. So very important to communicate this amongst your team members, but then also to the clients themselves. So that's number 3. Number 4, moving a bit faster now, is to be organized. Wow. Being an analyst is, I'd say, 90 to 95% about being organized in your work. Now, what do I really mean by this? Well, being organized in your work refers to knowing not only where this data is supposed to go, in the sense of in the deliverable itself, but also being organized in the sense of taking really good notes during a meeting. As an analyst, you should have a pen and paper or some type of writing utensil and documentation utensil with you at all times. Because as an analyst, you know nothing. You literally know nothing. Get the idea out that you know a lot of things, because I'm an analyst myself, and this is something I've had to teach myself, and I continue to say to myself every day, is that I don't actually know anything. Let go of that idea that I know things. So that's why I'm always taking notes at every single opportunity, because anyone who's been in the industry even slightly longer than you has a lot more experience than you. So with that, always be taking notes and always make sure that you're seen as the person who's just very thoughtful. By writing all of these notes down, that's how you eventually are able to give things to others. And so it's really important to be able to synthesize information in a logical manner. Maybe one day we'll go through note taking, and to be able to synthesize this information in a way that enables you to identify what are the key points, identify deadlines, and identify next steps. These are big things, as well as a summary of what actually went on in the meeting, who was in attendance, and what was the overall goal of the meeting itself. So again, maybe we'll go into a future video as to what note-taking is like. Number 5 is the most important, I think, and that is the idea that you must earn your title. So you just got an analyst gig, and you're like, yeah, I got an analyst gig. I'm super excited. The beginning of the rodeo, my friend, just the very beginning. You want to treat yourself as a person that you want to be, and make sure that others are able to count on you. So in other words, when I say earn your title, analysts are known to be, they're at the bottom of the totem pole. This is no surprise to anyone. But they're very valuable in the sense that they drive business, in the sense of they are revenue producing engines of any consulting or investment bank. That's really where the bulk of the work gets done in terms of putting together slides and such. Obviously, the consulting staff and the PMs, PM meaning project managers, vice presidents, whatever you want to call, principals, whatever you want to say, they're doing a lot of the thinking, and they're crafting out, okay, these are the ways that they're kind of like laying out a blueprint of all of these things. But the blueprint is only as useful as the actual construction of the blueprint itself. So that's where analysts come in really handy. And it's so important to earn your title. So when I say earn your title, that means that you're the one who's putting in the hard work to make sure that you're actually understanding what's going on. You're putting in the hard work to make sure that you understand, that you're checking your work, that you're putting together these analyses, you're being very thoughtful, you're communicating to your projects team, and that you show that you have the ability to handle putting together not only putting together analytics, like pulling data, putting together analytics, but also you start to begin to understand what does it mean to extract key takeaways. What does a key takeaway even mean to a client? That's hugely important. You have the ability to start communicating to the rest of your team and teach them and show them that you're an expert in a particular area, or that you understand what's going on in a particular market, and you can explain this to others. And then lastly, earning your title means that you're not pompous. You're not an asshole. You are someone who is able to be humble and come back to the idea that I don't know anything. I'm learning so much, and I'm so grateful to be in this position with you. Now, one might be like, Rockstar, grateful, how do those two things come together? Well, that's exactly what makes a rockstar. In all seriousness, though, I really hope you guys found some value within this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and share this with others. I will continue to put out a couple more videos, and I'll continue to on this topic because something I particularly love speaking to. And as I speak to you guys, it helps me to further distill all of this information and really understand it in ways that I do. So with that, I leave you. And remember, guys, always, always, always so important. Keep up, thrive, and stay sexy.